Welcome to the Prophecy Club. Our topic today is digital dollar reportedly coming in 23-24. Now, I'm going to say that there's a high probability that we're going to see the start of the digital dollar before the end of 2022. Why do I say that? I should have probably looked it up, but as I recall off the top of my head, 3 or 4 months ago, Biden signed an executive order, and if I remember right, I think the date was December the 13th. By December the 13th, he either wanted a digital dollar in place, but as I recall, I think he was saying that he wanted them to talk about it and come up with a plan for a digital dollar. But the point is, we're still really close to it. So let's explore the possibility of a digital dollar. Now, right up front, let me just say, I know a lot of people are saying, I remember back when, Prophecy Club started in 1993. And one of our first speakers, and perhaps you can, if you remember back that far, even back in the late 80s, 1980s, they were saying, they're going to be putting a chip under the skin. No, here's the chip. It's in your cell phone. You're already carrying the chip. This is the perfect way to track and monitor every person on the globe. Let me explain. I've said this many times. I've even put it in my book, Miss the Mark, which, of course, is a wonderful book. It sells a lot. Perhaps you should go to prophecyclub.com and get it. It's called Miss the Mark. And in that, I explain, here's the way it'll work. You'll get a cell phone, not this cell phone, a different cell phone, another cell phone in the future. And the cell phone will not be able to have a cover on it, like I have a cover on my cell phone right now. Instead, as you touch the cell phone, it is always taking your fingerprint. You can't turn it off. And you can't turn the camera off, both sides. So it is always taking your face print. You can't turn it off. Also, you can't turn off the voice. You can't turn off the microphone. So as you're holding your cell phone, it is always taking 3 biometrics on you. It is always taking your face, and I'm not talking about low resolution. I'm talking about 1 million pixels. There is no missing. Same thing with your fingerprint. It's like 1 million pixel stuff, okay? And same thing with the voice. I mean, high resolution. It knows who is holding it, and it can't be defeated, short of maybe cutting off a person's hand or something like that. But it knows who's holding it. And as you touch, as you look at, as you're speaking around it, it is always tracking you. And so this cell phone is 100% accurate. It does not miss. It knows who is holding it. Then this cell phone, not this one, but the next one, will then link up to the Starlink satellites. That's the reason they're putting them up. They're not putting them up so they can make money. They're not putting them up so that all the world can enjoy internet any place. They're putting them up there so that, and the reason they're low Earth orbiting is so that the satellites and the cell phones can communicate. Again, not this one, a future cell phone. And they'll be able to communicate, and then they don't communicate via radio waves like a cell phone does now. Instead, it's by laser links, much, much faster than radio waves. So the whole Earth is going to be covered with some 42,000 of these low Earth orbiting satellites. They are then connected into a quantum computer. What's a quantum computer? If you take your garden hose and turn it on full blast, let's say that the water coming out of that represents the fastest computer that humans have ever made. A quantum computer that was reportedly given to humans by extraterrestrial galactics or aliens, or the real truth is by demons, okay? And it would be likened to the amount of water flowing over Niagara Falls. A water hose compared to Niagara Falls. In other words, far, far, far faster than anything mankind has. And it is able to track every cell phone, every voice, every communication, every transaction. You remember Revelation 13 says, "And he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark on the right hand or in their forehead. And that no man might buy or sell, save he had the mark, or the name of the beast, or the number of his name." Now, we already talked about that. I can tell you what the mark looks like. We know what the number of his name looks like. We don't know the name of the beast. We don't know what he looks like yet. There are several people that are suspecting and watching closely Emmanuel Macron. I do not agree, but some people are saying it's Elon Musk. But the point is, we're very, very, very close to this. And it could very well be, and this is our topic today, that we could see the beginning of this digital currency even as early as this year, 2022. Now, let me show you some things going on. So this cell phone links up to the satellites, the Starlink satellites, low Earth orbiting satellites. They tie into a quantum computer. And the only way you can stop people on the Earth from purchasing is if you can track every purchase and you can get between that purchase. That's what this system will allow them to do. Maurice Sklar, back in like 1985, before the internet was even coming out, he was shown in a vision that there would be something we would call an internet. I've read the whole thing before, so I'll keep going. But essentially what he said is he saw the internet basically taking over the world and then turning dark. In other words, very, very evil. Well, just like we saw Hollywood was wonderful when it first came out. There wasn't even any cuss words on it. But of course, the devil gets into it and takes it over. Or in the case of Hollywood and the case of the digital dollar, I think it's all set up by the devil. All so that he can track and monitor every purchase. All right, now let me go into some things I've got for you today. India Today says, here's what UK Prime Minister Rishi Sunak thinks about cryptocurrencies. Bitcoin. Sunak's idea behind the digital currency, a proposed some ways the UK could turn into a crypto hub that would not only support businesses, but also those who run, manage, and work for them. What are they trying to do? In one way or another, they're trying to set up a digital system to be able to track every purchase. Let me say that again. They're setting up a digital system so that every purchase on the planet can be tracked and stopped if you don't have the mark of the beast. He goes on to say, to ensure the UK's financial sector is benefiting from the cutting-edge technology, attracts investments and jobs as well as widens consumer choice. Proposed CBDC, that's a central bank digital currency, what are they saying? They're saying a global digital currency to monitor and track every transaction on the globe. That's where the Bible wrote was coming some 2,000 years ago and is about here today. Or Bitcoin to be launched across the UK economy by 2025. Now, I do not think Bitcoin is going into the new financial system. Why? Because the whole point of the whole financial system is to go around the bad guys that have owned and controlled our financial system, the SWIFT system, for over 300 years. So if they allow something like a Bitcoin that does not have any backing to it, then the devil can easily take it over. What they're going to come out with, my understanding, from several reliable sources, and I won't mention any names, is they're going to come out with a digital system that is asset-backed. It does not get into the system unless it is asset-backed. Now, a lot of the information I get from finalwakeupcall.info from one particular article. I do not recommend most of the other things on the site. But this one particular article, as it was explained to me, there are certain things I can't talk about. But if it was on the internet and someone else has said it, then I can repeat them. So I'm repeating what finalwakeupcall.info said because on this particular article, he was correct. And I know he's correct, but I know from other sources. So let's go on. Now, what are the difference in these three loaves of bread? What's the difference? And I'm not trying to beat up on these other two competitors, okay? This is just your normal bread. This one here claims to be whole wheat bread. I do not believe it can be really whole wheat bread because whole wheat bread goes bad in 7 to 10 days. You can't put it into the store unless you put some kind of preservative in it. But what's the difference between these three? Here's the answer. This one, this loaf of bread that I made, this one will last for 25 years. What? No, I'm not talking about in the loaf itself. This is what I'm talking about. When you order from Joseph Kitchen, which is the company that I helped start, it doesn't come in a paper bag that breaks, that mice can eat, that moisture ruins. Instead, it comes in a 7-gallon pail that is nitrogen infused. Now, we cannot guarantee that it's going to last 25 years plus, but I've got several emails from people say, oh, yeah, it will. Okay, in other words, the difference between these and this one is this one arrives in a pail like this that you don't have to refrigerate it. You can stick it over in your garage. I don't recommend you put it up in a hot attic, but, some kind of reasonable climate-controlled area. And it's good for 25 years. You pull that out, you can still make yourself bread. Now, in order to do that, there's a couple of things you need. One is you need a machine package. In other words, these are the things that you need to make the bread. One is you need a grinder. This is where you take the berries, you put it inside, push a button, 30 seconds later you have flour. Next, you need a bread machine, unless you want to make it by hand, and I don't. Bread machine kneads it, lets it rise, it bakes it, all at the push of a button. Then, when you pull it out, it also includes a slicer and a knife even the beakers, everything you need to make the wheat. And as a result of that, you get one of these. You get a nice loaf of bread, and this is one that I actually baked. Next thing you have to decide is how much food you want. And I hope you're not clicking away. This is important. Look, when you're starving, you're going to wish you to watch this. Most of the emergency, long-term storage people out there, most of them cost anywhere from $9,000 to $10,000 for 1 year for one person. Let me say it again. $9,000 to $10,000 for one person 1 year. Let me say it again. $9,000 to $10,000 per person per year. At Joseph Kitchen, they can show you how to do it for in the ballpark of around $1,000 a person. We're not talking half price. We're talking 90% under the prices of all the other competitors. And this is what Joseph and the Pharaoh lived off of for 7 years. The whole world lived off of wheat for 7 years. So what you have to decide then, do you want to get food for one person 1 year, 2 people 1 year, 4 people 1 year, 6 people 1 year? And when they send it to you, they send you everything you need. They send you the honey, the wheat, the lecithin, everything you need to make that much food for a year. You may be saying, yeah, but what happens if electricity goes off? Well, they got a solution for that. It's called a solar generator, and you can get one of those too. So, here's the best deal of the day. The best deal is to get the 6 for 1. 6 people 1 year, $3,400. That's about $600 per person a year. Not $9,000 or $10,000, about $600 person per year for the actual food. Now, that doesn't include the mechanicals, but that's the actual food. If you do go to josephkitchen.com, if you'll use the promo code Prophecy Club, it'll get you a $50 discount. Prophecy Club, $50 discount. Circumstance or Antichrist near. El Elyon means the highest God, and that's the original name we understand of Elon Musk that just bought Twitter. The highest God, the richest man alive, is putting up the Starlink satellite system, or Elon Musk, to link to the QFS global digital financial system is said to be the one who will present the mark. Now, doesn't that make sense? Okay, so he's the SpaceX guy. He's the Tesla car guy. He's the guy that has set up and is setting up, soon to be, 42,000 low Earth orbiting satellites, and now he just bought Twitter, and he is openly saying that Twitter is going to be the app that does everything. In other words, it's going to not just be Twitter, it's going to be YouTube and all of the other social medias. It's going to be the everything. Well, that fits with him being the guy that introduces the mark. That's what we've been told. He will introduce the mark. Who will present the mark to the world who just purchased Twitter, a global communications network. You recall Dana Coverstone had this in a dream, and I'm only reading a couple of paragraphs here. He says, prepare for hyperinflation. This is what the angel spoke to him and said. No change will be available. And you remember also, Daniel Davis said in his DVD, the U.S. dollar is going to be worthless. Remember, he said he saw a man stand up behind a microphone in Dallas, Texas, and he said, ladies and gentlemen, I have an announcement to make. He said, the United States, as you have known it, has ceased to exist. All property lines are dissolved, and the U.S. dollar is worthless. Well, then Shane Warren comes along, and he was shown that he saw raining dollar bills worthless as leaves blowing in the wind. Maurice Sklar also said that the dollar is going to turn worthless. Then a guy Turner comes along and says, dollar's going away. A cashless system of digital numbers is coming in as a new exchange. Now, I also have to say, sometimes I get these nudges to say something that I haven't planned to say, and this is one of them. Pastor Massey, whom I have, he works with us on all of our crusades. He has a global miracles ministry, and I have seen miracles at his prayers. I believe he hears from God. He called me and he says, okay, he said, when this new digital system comes out, he said, you'll only have 6 months to get your money out of the system. And he says, I was told to put in gold, silver, land, and of course I'm going to add, or drilling rigs for drilling in Israel. Let's go on. Then Chris Reed comes along, March 25th, 2022. He said, I had a dream and I saw a man standing in front of me. He had a $50 bill. He tore a third of it off, meaning a third of the dollar's value is about to fall. And from several other prophecies, we were shown that it falls quickly. It's not a gradual fall. It's like literally overnight or over a weekend. Then he said people started handing me newspaper headlines. These were the headlines. I believe it's of God. I believe these are future headlines. Now, let me also say, I do not think that these are prophecies. I think that these are warnings. Well, Stan, what's the difference between a prophecy and a warning? Well, that's a very good question. A warning says you are heading down the wrong path. Just around the corner, there's some nails in the road. And if you don't slow down, if you don't get in a different lane, you're going to hit those nails and you're going to wind up with a flat. That's a warning. Now, a prophecy is saying there's some nails in the road, and no matter what you can do, you're going to hit those nails and you're going to get a flat. What these are, I believe, are warnings. This is God saying this is what, if you keep going, in other words, if there's not a mass repentance in America, these are the things that are going to be coming. Now, does it mean they have to come? No. As a matter of fact, that's why we've started Fast Gap to pray against these things that are coming. You can join our fast and prayer team, Fast Gap, at prophecyclub.com. You just go to prophecyclub.com, go all the way to the bottom, click on Fast Gap. Here's the way it works. Every Tuesday, I send you an email directly from me with all the typos and everything. Okay, we don't fancy it up. I just send the email directly from me to you saying, this is some things that are going on. This is the fast we're asking you to do, and this is the prayer that we're asking you to pray. Typically, the prayer takes less than 2 minutes, and the fast is from Tuesday midnight to Wednesday afternoon at 4 p.m. You can drink juice and coffee and all that sort of stuff. And take your meds, don't hurt yourself. And the only thing we ask is that you just avoid solid food. So it's not a real tough fast, but it gets a lot of results. Anyway, so let's go on. So people started handing him these newspapers. He said the first one had the headline, U.S. dollar drops 30% in value. Well, that's the same thing that Maurice Sklar was shown. Subtitle said, Middle East oil strikes deal with China instead of the U.S. Now, that sounds to me like that they stop selling oil. I'm talking about the Saudis. Saudis apparently are going to stop selling oil in the U.S. dollar and start selling it in yuan. That will absolutely crash the dollar. And I mean it will crash quick, like over the weekend. 2, perfect storm. Subtitle, inflation reaches new high. Well, as the value of the dollar drops because the nations no longer need it to buy crude oil, it means everything is going to start getting very expensive. I mean, our world will change quickly and for the much worse. 3, food shortage crisis as wheat and bread imports are at a stalemate. I got 14 different people that say that there is a food shortage coming, and I believe that's why God started Joseph Kitchen to be able to get food into his people's hands at a reasonable price. josephkitchen.com, go check it out. $50 bill torn in half. Then he saw the same man stand up with a $50 bill, but this time he tore it in half, meaning that the value of the dollar first loses 1/3, then it goes down to 50% of its value. Then people started handing me headlines again. Headlines were riots and civil unrest as citizens demand entitlement checks. That's the same thing Shane Warren said back in 2010. He said, I saw people holding up signs, we want our entitlements, we want our entitlements. As riots and civil unrest as citizens demand entitlement checks, an earthquake happened under my feet. Meaning that when we see the dollar drop so far that the government has to stop sending out their entitlement checks. We're talking about things like Social Security, food stamps, things like that. Okay, the free checks coming from the government. Of course, I know a lot of people say, yeah, well, Social Security is not free. But I understand. In other words, the checks from the government, maybe not all of them, but enough of them to get riots and civil unrest because the government's not sending out checks anymore because it can't anymore. But at that time, he also felt an earthquake under his feet. And the next headline is Israel and Palestinian two-state solution reached. You remember Leslie was told, Omar ushers in Palestinian state. The next headline was Catastrophe Hits America. From everything I've seen, we have, I think it's 12 people that say God told them that if America splits Israel, specifically Jerusalem, that God is going to split America right down the center, from the Great Lakes all the way down to the Gulf of Mexico. This is what it's talking about. I hope you're listening, because it could very well be, if we don't pray against this stuff, we could see these kind of things happen in probably not 2022, but very possibly 2023, and very probably 2024. So it goes on to say, America in pieces. Subtitle, more states secede from the nation in rebellion to the federal government. I can tell you right now, it's not just Texas is about ready to secede. They're fed up with this border stuff. They're fed up with a lot of things the federal government's doing. So if this midterm election, I think these are warnings. These are saying right now, if there's not a change, we're heading to this. But if the good guys can possibly kick out a bunch of the bad guys in this next election here in the next week or so, I believe we could see a softening or a delay to many of these. And I'm not sitting here saying, oh, I want it to come to pass. And instead, I'm taking these as warnings. And I'm saying, no, we don't want this to happen. I want to see prosperity. I want to see good times. I want to see sunny skies in America. Now let's go on to the next one. Then the next headline was, U.S. military takes charge as uncertainty looms over the federal government. Well, it's the same thing that Shane Warren saw. That's the same thing that Terry Bennett saw. And Dimitri Duduman was told the fall of America would start with an internal revolution. That's an internal revolution. Let me read it again. U.S. military takes charge as uncertainty looms over the federal government. Then, and here's the point of the broadcast today, a new dollar bill like a cell phone with George Washington's face on it. He said he saw some. He said it was like a cell phone, except for it was digital, but it had George Washington's face on it. And I've got my granddaughter's face on this here, but point is, this cell phone, you mark my words, cell phone in the next few years, 23, 24, if it makes it to 25, I'll be very surprised. This is going to be your currency right here. This is it. Then it says U.S. military takes charge. That's an internal revolution. An internal revolution started by the communists. Some of the people will start fighting against the government. Not everybody likes the fact that the good guys took over. Then a new dollar bill like a cell phone with George Washington's face on it. Then the headlines were new currency for a renewed nation. But that means it's just about to all fall apart. Simplicity restored as Americans begin to grow their own food again. So the food shortage is about to get so short, so bad, so hard, that Americans are going to have to start growing their own food again. So I'd recommend you go to josephkitchen.com. Now, in case you haven't been, just give me 20 seconds. Let me explain it. So a year ago, I started making my own homemade bread. We're talking about where I would grind the wheat berries into flour, put it into a bread machine with 6 other ingredients, push a button, 20 2 hours and 20 minutes later, I get a nice hot steaming loaf of whole wheat bread. I cannot say that it's lowered my blood pressure or my cholesterol, but I am off of my blood pressure medicine, and my cholesterol medicine just got cut down to 1/4 of the tablet. She says, you probably don't need the tablet, but she says, because you've had a stent, you should continue to take at least 1/4 of the tablet. So I probably don't even have to take that. If you ask me, I think it was bread. JosephKitchen.com can show you how to feed your family. I hope you're listening. Feed your family for about $1,000 a year. I don't know of anybody else that can come close to that. Most of the rest of your long-term storage, your emergency foods, your places like that, $9,000, $10,000 a person per year. But Joseph Kitchen, $1,000, one person, 1 year. Isn't in that kind of a ballpark? Joseph'sKitchen.com. It took me about 20 minutes to make these 2 loaves in my kitchen at an ingredient cost of about $12 each. In a time of food shortage and emergency, I'm going to cut each one of these loaves into 14 slices. Eat a slice in the morning, in the afternoon, I'll be satisfied. You want long-term food storage? You want to cut your food costs? Here it is. Eat 2 whole wheat bread slices daily for about a year for about $800 each. JosephKitchen.com's wheat berries come in a nitrogen-infused 7-gallon pail for long-term storage. Most other emergency food costs about $10,000 per person per year. That's right, about $10,000 per person per year. But at Joseph Kitchen, you could do it for about $1,000 per person per year. Now, to get started at JosephKitchen.com, you're going to need a machines package. That's going to give you the grinder, the bread machine, the knife slicer, all you need to make bread, and then you decide how much food you want to get. You want food 6 people 1 year, 4 people 1 year, 2 people 1 year, or just 1 person for a year, all at JosephKitchen.com. About $1,000 per person per year at JosephKitchen.com. Use the promo code Prophecy Club. Get you a $50 discount. JosephKitchen.com, promo code Prophecy Club for a $50 discount on your first order. CornerstoneAssetMetals.com is where I'll send you if you're thinking about getting gold or silver. I think everybody should have at least a fistful of gold and a fistful of silver, because there could be a time when you pull up to get gasoline and they might not want to take your loaf of bread, but you pull out a gold coin or a silver coin, and you're probably able to get anything you want, even if the credit cards are down, even if the dollars are worthless. CornerstoneAssetMetals.com. CornerstoneAssetMetals.com. Next is, I'll send you to EMP Shield.com. If you use the promo word prophecy, you get a $50 discount.